Hi everyone. And after like 15 weeks, 15 months actually that we do the podcast, this is the podcast number 50 for Double Cross Anime. So I'm Mario and with me as always is
Whooper. Hey
so
guys.
this week we're gonna do the finale of Mob Psycho 100. We will tell you the our like general impression of the whole series, and we're gonna discuss Diebuster, the whole things.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So so let's get to Mob Psycho 100, the finale. How do you feel about the finale? Do you think that it tie up the second arc? Well, Whooper?
Sure. I think it ties it up well. But am I happy with the second arc as a whole? Not totally. I was
Ah,
just so focused on combat, you know,
that's right.
and that's not the mode in which I like this series to operate.
Well, I feeling the same. So I just think that Mob Psycho 100 is at the best when it focus more on the everyday of mob, and even like the mob and Regan chemistry. So having it have like a total combat, a total like shonen feel doesn't really make it special for me.
Right. I mean, yeah, I agree. I would say that it's possible, you know, that it could go full on psychic battles and still like bring it home, you know, in terms of Mob's character and the emotional struggles that he has and overcoming, you know, his limits and the negative personality disorders and philosophies of others. You can go that route where the bad guy is trying to upset society's status quo and wants to subjugate everyone, and Mob through his kindness but also his strength defeats him. You can go that route and it can still work out. But I think the problem with this last arc has been Sho's father, Toichiro, is just not a good enough villain. He can't hold everything together the way that he ought to.
I totally agree with that. Like I was a bit disappointed that like at the end we don't really know much about the guy. Like I even care about the shut in guy more than him, for
Yeah,
example.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
And even like in the final episodes we see like it have like a bombastic actions, everything go like over the top, which is good for a series like Mob Psycho 100. But we don't eventually we don't learn that much about it is like the standard between good guy and bad guy for me. It's the villain, he doesn't have like the complex that I wanted him to be.
Yeah, what we learn about him, about his family situation, like his wife leaving him, um, is just not enough. You know,
Yep.
his fractured relationship with his son as the result of, you know, his divorce or his separation. That, like, there's touching piano music playing during the scene at the end when he's in handcuffs, or that weird, you know, you remember that like white goop kind of
Yep.
around his arms, like it's intended to suppress his supernatural powers. There's that scene where he talks to his son, and Sho tells him, like, if you think that you've gotten all the punishment that's coming to you, you got another thing coming, because mom's gonna give you an earful, you know, which is supposed to hint at a reunion between Toichiro and his wife.
Yep.
And then there's like really sad, heartstring tugging piano music playing in the background. And when I heard that, I was like, "What are you doing? This guy is like a, I don't know. He's a psychopath. Like his dream for 20 years was to travel the earth and see if anyone had powers on a level with his. And when he found out that no one did, he put into action a plan to rule the world
Yep.
based on his faith in his own strength,
Hmm.
which became like all encompassing. He didn't think about anyone except for himself, and he viewed everybody else as tools to achieve his ends. Like you can't just, shift into reverse gear real quick, tell a sob story about him and his wife, and expect that to be like a significant obstacle for Mob to overcome, for this series to overcome right at the end.
Right.
So big thumbs down for Toichiro.
Yeah. But on the opposite side, though, mob progression is pretty good. I actually like the fact that like he went crazy and he actually like enjoy like using the power until like he sees Risu, his brother, and that reminded him of when he was out of control and he hurt his brother.
Right. Yeah. Um, that's one of the most important things about season one, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is the knowledge that he once hurt his brother while his psychic powers were like beyond his control. Because that's the whole point of season one, or a big part of it, is that he's learning to control his psychic powers still.
Yep.
Like he's still bending spoons at the dinner table and stuff. But that wasn't as much of an issue in season two. So when he goes nuts, when he like starts to enjoy the fight
Mm-hmm.
in a way that he shouldn't, that's when Toichiro says, "Oh, you're just like me.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to let your psychic powers run wild. You're just like me,"
Mm-hmm.
which is something we already heard twice in the previous episode
Mm-hmm.
when a strong connection was drawn between Mob and Serizawa, the
Mm-hmm.
shut-in.
Yep.
And I feel like the connection between those two is actually much stronger than the connection between Mob and Toichiro.
That's right.
So whenever somebody says in an action series, "You're just like me," or "We're the same,"
Yep.
that just pisses me off.
Well, actually, they use that skill for Batman and Joker because
Yeah, as well as every other superpower
That's right.
superhero thing in existence.
Well, well,
I mean, I'm sure people love the trope, and that's why it keeps reappearing. But it has some thematic resonance. Like all of humanity kind of shares a base nature,
yep.
perhaps that the author of a superhero work might want to highlight. By creating two characters, one good, one bad, but who at their core are the same. I can understand how that would appeal to a lot of people, and how that might, be the kind of story you would want to tell over and over.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, we are on the other side of things, like consuming these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And when one after another has kind of the same message,
Yep.
it gets tiresome, because
That's right.
we're not creating one for people to digest. We're receiving hundreds.
Small pieces.
Yeah. So there's
Yep.
my rant.
Right. Um. Yeah. I think like sadly like the second half between the Claw organization, there's like it's one of my least favorite part from the whole seasons. Like the whole franchise basically. It's not bad
What do
at
you
all.
mean? Everything
It's
everything having to do with Claw in the second half of the second season?
Yeah, so like the second act, it's not like everything, but like the the uninspired villain, and basically like the story beat is actually a bit predictable. But apart from that though, like the mob progression is pretty good. We see like some of the highlight from the ex members of the claws who
Yeah.
trying to both to trying to help mob and trying to like become better version of themselves. So that was
Yeah, the
good.
scars are gone too.
Right, that's right. And yeah, and the animation is so wow, so sick, so pretty. It just I just have like no. It's like one of the best animation I have seen in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I think beyond any. I mean, in the wake of the second season finishing, a lot of people have been talking up a quote from the author saying that with Mob Psycho, he wanted to make something that was like kind. That was
Kind. Huh.
the feeling kind, yeah, like the
Yep.
feeling or emotion that he wanted to convey, which makes sense because that is the sort of person that Mob is, despite his insane, like
Power.
world-shattering power. He is a kind person. He does reach out to others, even though he has difficulty in doing so.
Yep.
So a lot of people are talking a lot about that. But to be honest, I feel as though that's an attempt to kind of sweep under the rug the confused and disappointing ending to which this series came
Yeah.
under Toichiro's guidance.
Yeah.
Like as you say, it does look crazy, and it does have some of the greatest animation that we've seen in a while. And I think that's the takeaway, is that
Mhm.
this is a TV series that is eclipsing what most theatrical productions are capable of.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it'll be remembered for in the long run.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It does look tremendous. My favorite episode, I think, was 11, when they were fighting against the teleporter.
Right. Right.
In
Right.
terms
Yep.
of visuals, like just the crazy building hurling city spanning fight between him and all the Claw members, and the way that he would move from one place to another in order to enter combat with them on an individual basis, the way the camera would follow him or
Mhm.
suddenly move from one place to another, it was just nuts.
Yep.
But this episode was, it was good too. It had a totally different feel. Like the background, the sky turned red,
Mhm.
and there were a lot of browns in there as well because of the rubble and the buildings and the rocks that were being flung back and forth between Mob and Toichiro. So definitely more urgent, I feel, as a result of the color change.
Mhm. When you said about kite, about like mob being kite, it just hit me that like in the episodes, at one point mob was disappointed of himself that he isn't strong enough to convert to Ichido, uh, uh, to become a good man. So all he had to do is like destroy the man, and that link back to like a few episodes ago when the spirit told him to like to be more cruel, to be more
Mogami.
to be more harsh, to be harder on people. But that message was alright. But then again, like at the end of the day, he still be safe. He still like he still have like a chance of redemption. So in a way, it's kind of like defeat the purpose.
Oh, what do you mean defeats the purpose?
Like,
What defeats the purpose?
all right, at one point, Mob said to himself that he had to be like he had to be harder to people. So he had to basically kill the man.
Right.
And then afterwards, we see like he didn't do that because Mob being Mob, he wanted to save him.
Yeah,
And
he kind
and
of
I
rejects Mogami's message
yeah, well, right, huh, all right,
because he does try to. We learn in these last few episodes that both he and Toichiro have the ability to give their powers to others,
yep,
which is something we actually learned in season 1 about Mob, because he gives some of his power to Reagan
mm-hmm.
in the final arc of season 1.
Yep,
Just briefly. But we also, the flip side of that is that they can take powers away. They can like absorb them,
mm-hmm.
which I thought was how he was going to try to defeat Toichiro rather than killing him or just trying to beat him down. He would take his power, the thing that Toichiro was so obsessed about, his own strength.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that scene between the two of them when Mob, he does try to absorb Toichiro's power, like the explosion that's set to go off.
Yep,
That scene where his body is like lit up. And he I think he does, or else he redirects it into the broccoli.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Because there's that big thing of broccoli
Well,
that's in the middle of the city at the end.
it
That was bizarre.
well, yeah, it was bizarre. Like everything thing of that was beautiful, but for me, it's just like it's a big broccoli. It's nothing beautiful about broccoli. I don't like broccoli myself.
Oh, okay. I enjoy broccoli. So maybe your perception of this episode, nay, the entire Mob Psycho series,
It's a
hinges
broccoli.
on whether you like broccoli or not.
Yeah. No, I don't like broccoli.
Okay, well then that explains your disappointment.
Yeah.
Of course, there could be other factors at play.
Right. So
We
yeah.
should probably mention that Serizawa becomes Reigen's assistant.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. So he have another person to exploit.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
That's
But I do think that it's an appropriate resolution to his arc because now he's joining society
happy
for
people.
real.
Yep.
You know, he's not venturing out of his house only to stay under the control of another, like Toichiro, who wants him to stay like mentally locked in his room so he can do Toichiro's bidding.
Well, do you think that Reagan can do any different? He's still under control of Reagan, and
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm not as in love with Reagan's character as a lot of other people because I do see him as like he exploits children.
yep.
He looks for situations where he can elevate himself above others, like the scenes with the bar with all the people who believe all the lies that he tells them about himself and about their futures and stuff. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like the very Reagan focused scenes in the middle of the season.
Yep. Yep. That was
There's
pretty
that
good.
bar that he goes to.
That was pretty good, actually. I really like it. Yep.
Yeah,
But,
those are good episodes. Yeah. But he does seem to like prey on the weaknesses and the naivete of others. And this series has really tried to have it both ways with his character. Like especially in the second season, it's pointed out his shortcomings and his flaws, but it still wants everyone to love him. And I think it actually does a decent job. I think it pulls it off. Nevertheless, I don't like Reagan's character that much. You know, he's not like the best bro to me that a lot of people think that he is. And yeah, I do think that he'll probably, you know, take advantage of Serizawa a little bit. So that's a shame. But at the very least, he's out from under Toichiro's thumb. Because even though Reagan is like of dubious moral character, Toichiro was a legitimate psychopath.
yep.
So Reagan has to be a step up from that.
Well, well, actually, the Toichiro doesn't pretty much harm the man. But yeah, I wouldn't reckon that Reagan will do that. But you know, like if he uses people, it's still like the same as Toichiro.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying in principle, but I do think you have to take into account like the separation of degrees.
All right.
You know,
So
to each if we're grading, you know, like manipulation on a scale from 1 to 10, then Reagan is probably like a 4 compared to Toichiro's 10.
All right. All right. But yeah, that's like a nice bit of information that we gain. I actually wanted to know if Mob Psycho and the girl he have a crush with, how they gonna be processed. But I think that would be for like the season 3 if that ever happened. Do you think that there will be a season 3 for Mob Psycho 100?
It's my guess is yes, but it's a little more difficult to say than just, oh, Mob Psycho was a hit. You know, of course there'll be season 3.
Yep.
Because this production is so labor intensive, I assume, and requires so much advanced planning.
Yep.
If there's going to be a sequel, we probably won't see it until like 2022 or something.
Well,
something like that.
re-
Like 3 years. From
regarding-
now. 'Cause there was a gap between seasons 1 and 2
Yeah.
as well.
3 years. So yeah, by that gap, it's gonna be like 2022, like you said.
Yeah. There's also going to be an OVA though. An OVA is announced,
Right.
and that's going to come out soonish, like probably this year, to be bundled with the Blu-rays.
Yep. So yeah,
So maybe we'll get some stuff about Tsubomi, the girl that he wants to confess to, in that one,
Yeah.
because he does. That is part of the scene between him and Toichiro
Yep.
when he's about to explode and Mob needs to diffuse his energy. When he sees Toichiro's memories of his wife, Mob thinks to himself, or he says out loud, "Oh, there's also someone that I need to express my feelings to."
That's right. That's right.
And that's actually like the last thing he says before the big explosion
Mm-hmm.
and the midway point of the episode, the eye catch.
Yep.
So you would expect that with that being kind of the thought that compels him to like redirect all this energy and save the city, that we would see him confess to Tsubomi at the as the resolution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But maybe they're saving that for later. I don't know.
Yep. So you have mentioned me that you just rewatch One Punch Man, the first season
Yeah.
the other day. So how do you compare the two material from one? Which one do you prefer better?
I think that the first 5 episodes of One Punch Man
Will be your favorite?
are yeah they be like the first 5 episodes of One Punch Man for me are some of the best anime of the last 5+ years.
All right. Huh.
Um,
That's a
on the whole, I think that I like Mob Psycho better than One Punch Man because both of them devolve into a lot of combat, shonen fighting action,
Right.
introducing tons of wacky characters and seeing their powers
Mhm.
and how they ping pong off of one another. But Mob Psycho does retain its focus on Mob's character and its general themes
Yep.
better than One Punch Man does, as they both go along that slope.
Well, One Punch Man is always more about comedy than Mob Psycho
Yeah.
100. So that adds something to it as well. And I think Mob Psycho 100 is more supernatural feel in it. Like for the first
Yeah.
2-3 episodes of the second season of Mob Psycho 100 is more about urban legend. And yes,
Right.
psycho.
The exorcism
Yes,
and stuff.
that's
they have
right.
to do.
But yeah, I think like they both center about the overpower protagonist who has to do something to basically fight it, overcome being lonely when they are become too powerful.
Yeah. I guess there is that parallel between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, one does seem to the author.
Yep.
He does seem to have a favorite set of
Team.
favorite set of themes, and obviously his character designs are very similar because of his limited artistic capabilities. And he really likes shows about characters with crazy powers and what that does to them psychologically and socially. But I do think there's a clear delineation, like a distinction that you can make between these two works.
Well,
And I think Mob Psycho is better on the whole.
all right. One more thing though. When you said like his limited artistic ability, there is more like style. Maybe it's just his style to draw people with like very simple design.
I mean, I think he's said, or
All right.
I'm not so into the guy that I've looked up a bunch of interviews and stuff, but I think the common belief
Yep.
about one is that he really can't draw. The way that he draws is because he's not able to do it like,
Yep.
an actual. Well, he is an actual mangaka, but not the kind that would be published in a gigantic magazine.
Yeah. Well.
But I think that you can tell. I would say that his stories are if you can't label them shonen because they don't run in shonen magazines, or maybe they do, I don't know.
Yep.
But even if you don't label him that way, he's clearly has a focus on like supernatural combat. And if you hold his series up to the sort of stuff that runs in Jump,
Yep.
like the super long runners that just keep expanding their worlds outward and introducing more characters. Like
One Piece.
they exist just to sell themselves
Naruto.
and to continue publication.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I clearly prefer his style of storytelling because it does seem to be headed somewhere.
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, it's at the end of the day, it is about story, story and characters, because that's who you remember most. That's what you remember most vividly.
Right.
And so if all you get from a series is like a million characters and a story that stretches on endlessly, then impact's going to be lost. But you don't have that problem with one stories, I don't think.
All right. Do you have any other comment on the show itself?
No, not really. I mean, we've
All
already
right.
burned up 25 minutes here.
Yep. I would say last that I consider Mob Psycho 100 my favorite episode of the last season. My favorite series of the last season.
Okay. For me, it's Kaguya.
All right. Fair enough.
For me, it's just Kaguya and Mob. Like, I didn't care for anything else this season.
Yeah, you.
Neverland was a bust. Dororo, I think, is inconsistent. And I
Right.
dropped everything else. Oh, Rinshi Ekoda-chan was pretty cool, but I think its last 2 or 3 episodes kind of the spark died out for me. I much prefer the first like
Nice.
2/3 or 3/4.
Right. Well, I still need to catch up on that show. I think I will, because I like the main character so much.
Yeah. She's a heck of a gal.
Yep, that's right. Let's see. From last season, I think like many of the shows that I enjoy, but like
So Mob Psycho's first. What?
yeah, Mob Psycho
What's the
first.
rundown of the others?
Mob Psycho first. Kaguya-sama actually the second, and then like
Nice.
on the same levels will be Promised Neverland, Kemuri Kusha, Kotobuki. What else? A lot of shows on the same levels. The
Boogie Pop?
Boogie Pop as well. That's right. The Queen Latet. Yep.
The quintuplet show? Yeah.
Yeah, that's and Andro. So they both on the same level for me.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that's not bad. You know, if you've got a bunch of series hovering there, kind of all on an enjoyable level.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's nothing great at like the solid one. So they solid enough. They not like the standouts of the season.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Yep.
I mean, we had Mob Psycho. That's
Yeah.
I mean, it
that-
looks like a standout. It acts like a standout. So that's
Yeah.
gonna be what first for a lot of people.
That's right. All right, so let's get to the sequel, the loose sequels of Gunbuster that we we was covering for the last few weeks. This one is Diebuster, 20 years later.
Right.
And
20 years later in terms of production, but 12,000 years later
yep,
in terms of the the timeline
As-
in the universe of the two series.
that's right. As we learn in the finale, in like
Right.
the last few moments of the finale.
Right. Although I think there are hints.
There are hints.
As
That's right.
As the series goes on.
This is from the director of Fuliculi, and
That's right.
and like Whooper mentioned me before, like I think the episode 2 of Diebuster was storyboard by Ikuhara himself.
Yes, but after watching it, I'm not convinced that he did
That-
the entire thing. I think there are scenes that really bear his distinctive mark.
Right.
Especially the scene where what's his name? Nicola and Lauk
Yep.
kind of where they embrace in that little type of garden
Yep.
with the vertical bars running up and down, like it's kind of like a greenhouse, and the bars represent kind of the imprisonment
Right.
in which he holds her, because he seems to be a very manipulative character, and we learn that as the series goes on.
Mm-hmm.
That was very Utena, like extremely.
Yeah. I also have the same feeling. So except for some moment that reminded me of Ikuhara, I actually didn't even recall. I don't even remember that Ikuhara was storyboard until like after the episode end, and I was like, oh, I didn't even like see his presence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about anime. There are creators who you can always see their fingerprints all over everything, and I would say that Ikuhara is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But storyboarders and animators, and they're always encouraged to kind of blend in.
Yep.
That seems to be how anime production is in general. Not a lot of people are allowed to just run wild with whatever vision they have.
Well,
So it was really only at like small points throughout episode 2 that you could say, "Oh yeah, this is him."
yes, but like he was one of like the very few anime directors that whatever he touched, we are really recognizable, distinctive. I say.
Yeah.
So Ikuhara, Satoshi Kon, Masaki Yuasa, and Shinichiro Watanabe. Like,
I'd say there's more than just those guys.
yeah, I know, but yeah,
I think that Kazuma Tsurumaki's style of direction, he's the guy who did Fooly Cooly and this one, Diebuster. I'd say that his direction is extremely
that's right. Yep.
recognizable. His line work, which is like thicker on the close-ups and thinner on the characters who are in the background,
Yep.
and the way they move, which really highlights their key poses.
Right, that's right.
Although I mean, I think his influence was lessened in Diebuster as compared to Fooly Cooly because there was more CG
Huh.
in
Yeah, in the
in
fight.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the more computer influence there is, the less evident that human influence becomes. Although that may change as technology improves. We may like in the next 10 or 15 years, we may reach a point where you can really see people's computer techniques and identify people on an individual basis the same way that Sakuga nerds do now with 2D animation.
Yep. I think that's gonna happen as well, and I think like in the future, not only like the CG. I'm not talking about anime, but like the whole animation itself. In the future, they're gonna be like a whole new medium of animation. It is virtual reality, VR.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's I have never seen any like VR movies, but yeah, from the experience that everyone said, like it's like it's keep evolving. It's gonna be like the big thing in the future.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure about animation as a whole, but I know that the highest profile VR anime
Yep.
that's currently in production is there's a Spice and Wolf
Oh, right.
VR
That's-
anime.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know when it's coming out, but it's in production and people are hyped about it because they've been begging for season 3 forever. And this isn't season 3, but it is more Spice and Wolf.
Nah, it's like it. I think it's about the last volume of Spy Wolf. So it's about their daughter. So it's like
Okay.
it's more like a spin-off.
Oh,
Yep.
all right. Well,
No,
I mean, I think VR's. I don't know much about VR at all. I assume that it's still very expensive because it is like
it
a,
is.
you know, I can't think of a good word, but it's like a new technology
Right.
relative to everything else. So
Yep.
I don't know when I'm going to have the funds to purchase a VR machine.
Set to watch all those animations.
Yeah. What happens when seasonal anime becomes all VR in the future?
Ooh,
I guess I just stop following seasonal anime. Unless it's cheap by that point.
I think it will be cheap. I think it will be affordable. I don't know, man.
Why are we talking about this?
All right, let's get back to Diebuster.
All right. Just
Diebuster.
want to go episode by episode?
Or we can just pick up like some of the most important point. It's up to you.
Well, I mean, we can still go on for like, I don't know. We can cut this off at an hour and 15, let's say. Go for 45 more minutes.
Right.
Something like that.
All right. I think structure wise, it have like the same structure as the first Gunbuster. So it's like many loose stories, loose act going together. I for me though, for the first few episodes, I don't really feel that commit to the show. I think it's become something special, something like more interesting in the last two episodes.
Okay, interesting. I have the opposite reaction.
All right.
I loved it from the start. Coming into this, like, I view it more as it is a sequel to Gunbuster, and that actually is important. Like, you could probably watch Diebuster without having seen Gunbuster and get a lot out of it,
Yep.
but the connection to Gunbuster does will enrich your experience of the last handful of episodes. Like you said, maybe the last two, maybe the connection with Gunbuster is what propelled it over the top for you.
Yep. Yep.
But I really enjoyed the first few episodes because it reminded me strongly of Fooly Cooly.
Right. All right.
And Fooly Cooly is one of my favorite anime.
Yep. That's
So, go ahead.
yeah. That's the thing that a bit put me off because like Fooly Cooly, I admire Fooly Cooly. I never really into Fooly Cooly because the plot runs so wild that like at the end of the episode I have a really hard time telling what the story is about, and that also happened to me in the first 2 and 3 episodes, I think.
Right. Of Diebuster.
Of Diebuster, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I know you really like stuff like,
Yep.
Flip Flappers and
Yep.
Kyoso Giga, where the story is not totally clear.
That's right.
At least it's not at the center.
Yep.
The style of the series, like visually, and perhaps its motifs and themes are emphasized more heavily than its narrative.
Yep.
So I'm surprised that you don't like Fooly Cooly more.
Yeah.
Although I do think that Fooly Cooly is this type of series that's best experienced at a certain point in your life,
Right.
which it was for me.
Well, it's more. I think it's more about like the emotional investment. So it's like something like Flip Flapper and Kyosho Giga. They still have like the emotion, connection, because like these characters have very clear what they want to do, what they wanted to interact with the people around them. For Fully,
I don't remember that being that clear in
Flip Flappers.
either of those series.
Alright, Kyosho Giga is more about family dynamic,
Yes.
and Flip Flapper is more about like the connection between Papika and Kokuna. If that,
Right. But what connection though?
well, just the connection basically, just like you make a good point.
Go na! Go na!
The bond.
Kokona!
It's like the the bond between them. Well,
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing in Die, but maybe that's why you like the later episodes of Diebuster more, because the bond between Nono and Lalk was
Yep.
so like pivotal.
Yep.
In the end, they ended up combining and doing the double Inazuma Kick. Because they were kind of like the next generation versions of Noriko and Kazumi.
right. Right. Yep, that's right. For something like the first few episodes, yeah, like I said, for something like the first few episodes of Diebuster and even Fooly Cooly, they just go really wild, and I don't feel like any emotional connection to those. So that's why.
Another reason might be that well, I just had an idea, but
Yep.
I'm gonna throw it in the trash because I thought about it and it didn't really make sense.
Right. Do it. Do it.
I mean,
anyway.
regardless of, well, I'm not gonna say it. Like regardless of the reason,
Yep.
if Fooly Cooly is not as much of your jam as Flip Flappers and Kyoso Giga,
Yep.
which clearly pull a lot of influence, I think, from Fooly Cooly, as a lot of anime do.
Yep.
But the way in which those two series evolved beyond I think Fooly Cooly has a very male perspective,
Right.
and those two series kind of branch out from that. Fooly Cooly is all about being an adolescent boy. And they dress that up as best they can with robots and stuff. But Diebuster is kind of like Fooly Cooly in that respect, although it does place its female characters at the center. And that's actually something we can talk about the first episode.
Yep.
Like, I think there's a lot of people make the argument, let's say to rehash the Kill la Kill thing, people think it's like some secret feminist masterpiece or something,
Right.
because it puts the girls kind of liberating themselves from like standards about what they ought to wear, how they ought to dress and behave.
All right.
I think Diebuster has a little bit of that going on,
by tearing your clothes apart.
Well, even if we move away from that, you remember the scene, like she at the very beginning, Nono leaves behind her hometown in Mars because
Right.
she wants to become a space pilot.
Yep.
But she ends up working at a diner in perhaps a more urban area of Mars, but she still hasn't left the planet. And those three guys come in their little gray CG
Oh
robot
yeah.
suits,
Yep.
and they, the show starts to like, gaze at her like she's some sex object, and the guys are all like, you'll be a nice little bride someday.
Yep. And they do like some sexual harassment to her.
Yeah, Sekuhara.
Yep.
But Lalk comes in and like blows them all away. She takes off her topless limiter from her forehead, and she like basically blows the fuck out of those guys.
Yep. Yep.
And so that's the show, I think, giving a bit of a middle finger to that sort of perspective.
Mentality.
That's
Yep.
that's the thing. The thing about Gynax is that they love to draw, cute girls, and sometimes naked girls, as in
Right.
Diebuster.
Yep.
But they also do place female characters at the center of a lot of their works. And the scene where Nono, like, she does the Noriko thing and like bares her chest when she's fighting that big Martian, the space monster.
Yep.
I think there's more attention paid to the symbolism of that act in Diebuster than in Gunbuster.
All right.
Perhaps because of the visuals. They're not as realistic. They don't strive for the same level of detail that Gunbuster does. It's a little bit more cartoonish.
Uh-huh.
So there's not as much room for like titillation or objectification, and it's more just about what she's doing, how she's trying to access more of herself, like more of her power in that fight.
Well, I actually have like the opposite opinion regarding that scenes. So like
Okay.
in Gunbuster, I actually understand the reason why she does that, and actually it does hit me that it was, it makes sense. It makes sense in the context. Here though, I feel like after watching that episode, except for like the callback from Gunbuster, I actually have a hard time um understanding why it's be there. Like it could do it much better if that scene hasn't been there. It still work.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I mean, you said the word callback. It's true that I think the main level on which that action is what's the word I want? The main point of her ripping off the front of her shirt there is as a callback to Gunbuster,
Right.
because Diebuster has to establish itself as a sequel, and it I think it does that reasonably well throughout its 6 episodes. More towards the end, I guess. But I do think it's important to remember that like Nono, we don't know this at the start, but Nono is she's like an artificial consciousness. She's a robot.
Yep.
And she has memories of Noriko and like what she did for the Earth, how she saved it.
Yep.
That's why she keeps saying Nonodiri,
Yep.
even though all the other characters, whenever they talk about the past, they use language like myth and like ancient. They use words like myth and ancient to kind of imply that that history has been lost.
Yep.
But Nono remembers, even though she can't quite get Noriko's name correct, and she doesn't until episode 5 when we hear the ko at the end of the Nonodiri.
Yep. That's right.
She does remember Noriko. She has those memories implanted in her, I suppose, because she's a robot. So she was probably designed with Noriko in mind. And that's so there is another layer of symbolism to the moment when she bares her breasts, because she is essentially Noriko 2.0.
Right.
However, at that point, she's not syncing with a mech the way that Noriko was when she did that in the final episode of Gunbuster.
Yep. Yep.
So I do feel like in episode 1 there's a little bit of a like a girl power slant to it. Nono is placed at the center of the series, and she's allowed to be as like Genki and as energetic as she likes. And when people try to perceive her differently, those 3 girls in the diner, Lulk shows up and she just blows them out. So I think there's, this show's putting something forward there.
Yeah, but like later on, like I think in episode 4 or 4, I think, there was a scene where one of the ex-member of the team that Nono was trying to sexual harass her again. Remember that scene?
Yeah, it was Nicola, because at that point it's become clear that she's a buster machine. Nono is a buster machine, and yeah, he tries to rape her.
Yeah, well, a robot.
Yeah. Yes.
But
yeah. I mean, I don't think that featuring attempted rape in your series disqualifies you from having a positive female centric message. Just by putting that on screen, I don't think that removes, the whatever other commentary you're making. That's Nicola's character.
Yeah,
that's his choice, because we're supposed to understand that since he's lost his powers, his topless powers, that he started to go a little bit nuts.
Yeah, I just mean that, like the way the show frame that kind of story is more. I think it's a bit hastily put. It feel like, like it feel not natural for me. But well,
okay,
it's like
I think I can agree with that.
Of like the whole plot. Yep.
I think I can agree with it feeling unnatural, because Nicola is not a central character. We do see him in nearly every episode, but there are big jumps and gaps between, all those episodes. In episode 6, we see that he's joined the army,
Yep.
and we where did that come from? That's just a consequence of having like a 6-episode OVA. So I think I can agree that his sudden assault on Nono felt unnatural, but another aspect of the unnaturality is just how uncomfortable it is. And sure, it's uncomfortable, but that's his character that's taking that action. And I don't think the show encourages it or anything. I mean, it puts it on screen, and people may have an issue with that in the first place, but the message is not rape apology.
Right.
So it's I mean, ultimately I don't think that scene is like super impactful. If you're gonna put that sort of thing in your script and and animate it and all that, then it ought to have a little bit more impact behind it, perhaps. Or you could just not do it at all.
Yep. Well, talking about the production of this series, I pretty much like it. It have like all the wow action, all the really great choreography, and it's like a clear step up from like the originals. I really like it, and it have like the very distinctive type of the director from Fulikuli.
Yeah. Tsurumaki.
Kazuya Tsurumaki. Yep.
Yeah, and Yoshiyuki Sadamoto is on character design. I love his character design.
All right. Yeah, I love the character design of this show.
He recycled some ideas from Fooly Cooly. There was a lieutenant in that series named Kitsurubame.
Oh.
She was the girl with the tan skin and the light colored hair. And he essentially brought that character design back for Lulk. Probably because he liked the design so much, but Kitsurubame wasn't a main character, so he was like, I want to use this design again, and he did, and it was cool.
All right, and actually the Diebuster remind me a bit of a series from Trigger.
Which one? Darling in the
Darling in the
Franxx.
Franks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are tons of parallels between Darling in the Franxx and Diebuster. Um,
Hmm.
there's the mechs with human proportions that Darling in
Yep.
the Franxx did. That's straight from Diebuster. Um,
Huh.
Zero Two's design
Yep.
is she's a
Yep. Yep.
tall, pink, very expressive girl. That's No.
Yep.
The enemies in Darling in the Franxx were of humanity's own creation because they were drilling for magma, and as a
Yep.
result, all the what were they called? Klaxosaurs in Darling in the Franxx.
Yep.
As a result, the
Clackmasaur.
Klaxosaurs, kind of rebelled and fought against them.
Yep.
It's the same deal in Diebuster, where humanity creates that defense force for themselves, but it ends up rebelling against them and
Right.
acting like the space bugs did from Gunbuster.
Yep. 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 Yep.
There's a giant space girl at the end of Darling in the Franxx when Zero Two
Oh
transforms
yeah,
into
that's
that
right.
giant space woman. Same thing in Diebuster. I mean, they just essentially took a bunch of stuff from Ava and Diebuster
Right.
and probably
You
Gurren
know.
Lagann and Kill la Kill and just threw it all in a blender.
You know what? Darling in the Frank is so lame. like
Yep.
when you see like the inspiration it has, and they actually managed to do it better than what the Darling in the Frank ever did. It just it's just so sad for Darling.
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
But I mean, I don't really care about Darling in the Franxx. Except for the last 6 episodes, which are a masterpiece of unintentional comedy.
alright. Oh, just a bit of off tangent before we get back to the show itself. There is a anime film that called Gunbuster versus Diebuster.
Yeah,
So
it's a
it is.
compilation.
Oh right, it's not like a mashup or something.
No, I don't think so. I think it's really 2 films in one.
Right.
It adapts Gunbuster, or it condenses Gunbuster, and then it condenses Diebuster. There's no like threading of the two, like there are no intercut scenes or anything.
Right. Got that.
Yeah,
Yep. All
unfortunately.
right, we can run that. Do you have like any important point for Gunbuster on your notes?
For
You
Diebuster,
have heaps for Diebuster.
I
Sorry,
have like
so
3
not for
full pages of
Diebuster.
notes, my man.
Go on. Lead the way.
Okay. One thing I wanted to note, like a lot of my appreciation for Diebuster is based on its visuals and like the DNA
Right.
that I can see for future Gynax and Trigger works that was laid down in Diebuster.
Future.
One that stuck out to me was that Nono has the Trigger star marks in her eyes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know,
I didn't actually
the same
catch
ones
that.
in
Yeah.
Kill
That's
la
right.
Kill and Little Witch Academia and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this may be the
Wow.
first time that Gynax ever did that with Diebuster. So that became iconic for them.
Right.
I also really like the color design throughout the series. There are many moments when Tsurumaki just lets one color dominate the screen. In episode 1, it's like the yellow sky, which reminds me a lot of Fooly Cooly. It kind of has a stagnant, suffocating feel to it. Like it's not the blue that represents freedom, and it's not the black that represents quiet or darkness. It's yellow, and it feels oppressive because Nono wants to escape Mars. She wants to become a space pilot. So like the yellow sky is bearing down on her. The episode where they go to Jupiter is very green, but it's kind of like a toxic feeling green. Kind of represents like pollution and destruction.
Right.
And there's a lot of red near the end.
Yep.
The space bugs cause that, and there's the red Milky Way beyond which humanity can't go. So red obviously means stop. It also symbolizes combat because of the potential for bloodshed. So I think the series did a really good job of exploiting different colors and letting them overtake scenes to create a certain mood at different points throughout its run. So that was one
Right.
note I wanted to make.
Yep.
I guess I'll go on to another one.
Yeah. Well, how do you think about the episode 3 when the show focus on the girl? I think her name is Taicho.
Tico.
Tico, alright.
Yeah. I really like that episode. How about you?
Yeah, yep. I like that too. I think it's a bit it because it's not focused on either like Nono or Locke. But at the end, I think it's a pretty good episode.
Yeah. I agree. It did some good
Yep.
work with her character. I think Tico is supposed to be Jung from Gunbuster.
Huh. That's right. That's right.
She's the rival character who just out of the blue says, "No, no, let's fight. Turn off your
Yep.
your locator tracking thing, and let's see who's the better pilot." Because they're both in that episode, they're both in competition for like the brand new Buster machine, the first one to be produced in many years. And the really interesting thing to me about the end of that episode is that it seems to be Nono who awakens the Buster machine, but it's Tico who
Yep.
pilots it.
That's right because I remember when Nono was talking to her, the Diebuster machine already waken up, already
that's-
activated.
Right, yeah. That's when she's stressing the importance of like hard work and guts. That seems to be her catchphrase, which I think is repeated
Yep.
from Gunbuster. Because Tico has kind of resigned herself to the powerlessness of Topless. She couldn't even save the boy that she loved, and that fact has plagued her and has her feeling totally guilty that she wasn't
Yep.
able to do anything for him.
Right.
So that's why she also resents Lulk, because Lulk gets on TV every year and gives that speech about how Topless are like humanity's friends and they're going to keep the Earth safe, or humanity safe. So that's why Tico wants to become number one. She wants to become the princess, so that she can replace Lulk, and she won't have to hear Lulk give that speech anymore, because it drives her nuts, because she doesn't believe that they have that power, the power that Lulk says they do. So
Yep.
there's actually a lot going on between the three of their characters in that episode, and I think that's one of the episodes where the combat is most intricately tied to the characters' emotions and their thought processes. Near the
That's
end,
right.
it gets to be a little, for me personally, it gets to be a little too much like, oh, let's start throwing planets at stuff. Let's just create the biggest set pieces we can.
Yep. That's right. Well, one thing that I really like about these characters is that at first I thought that that she gonna die with
Tico?
all the that Tico. At first I thought that that she gonna fail and she gonna die in the mission, just like the way that like her crush from the first season, Noriko crush, what his name?
Oh yeah,
Some
what was it?
lame from
Torrin Smith.
Torrance Smith, some lame name, and so at first I think that Tico gonna be like him, like die in the mission, but but apparently she having her own act, and that was a good one. That was a pretty satisfying one.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Torrin Smith. I think it's worth noting that Diebuster does not have a Torrin Smith character.
Yep.
It does have Nicola and
Well,
Cassio, the two main
that's
male
right.
characters, but I don't think either of them are analogs to Torrin, because Torrin is like the one and done love interest who just gives Noriko motivation to overcome her fear and her limits.
Yep. But at the same time, though, we have like not at love interest, but we have like the sister, the twin sisters.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about them. Do you have any thoughts on them? Because they mostly just went in one ear and out the other for me.
Right. I just think they are the ones who try to manipulate the team until like it's backfire on them. I don't think that much about them either.
Okay. Yeah, they're they didn't they I mean I don't know, they didn't leave much of an impact on me at all. None of their scenes, not the one where they're eating that weird flesh from the moon or
Yeah, yeah,
something,
that's right.
and not their designs. I mean, they have kind of cool designs. They get the white hair, and it was one of them male and one female, or were they sisters?
They're sisters. They're sisters.
Okay. Um, Nothing. I mean, their plan was so obscured by the series, like it was so in the background, and it ended up just backfiring anyway, I think. And did one of them
Right.
die, or both?
No, no,
Or
yeah, they both died by
okay,
the
yeah.
explosion.
Like I didn't even remember that they died. So obviously, I wasn't that crazy about them.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that's true. There are a couple more characters that. So there's no Torin in Diebuster, and there are no twins in Gunbuster.
that's
Um,
right.
So they are different from one another. It's not a total
Hmm.
remake and rehash.
Yep,
Diebuster definitely does its own thing and creates actually a very detailed history of what happened over the last 12,000 years. I feel
yep.
I caught bits and pieces of it having seen it one time, but I'm sure that if I saw it a second time, I would get way more.
Right.
Because there's lots of meetings in like boardrooms and stuff where people are talking about, oh, humanity in this year created such and such a weapon and blah blah blah. The moon underwent this transformation in this era.
Yep.
Most
Well,
of
I'm
that
not too
escaped my
hot
notice.
on. I'm not too hot on the show, but well, I must say that it's better than Gunbuster. It have like more layers of like details that we can pick up,
Yeah, I agree.
and it has like many great comeback to the original, which is what the sequel should be. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, and a lot of those callbacks come near the end.
Yep, that's right. That's right. I actually have like a pleasant surprise when I realized that like the last few moments of that Diebuster was related back to the questionable like the questionable ending that
Yeah.
we were discussed last week.
I think the thing that really sells it is that it's No, the main character of
Hmm.
Diebuster, who we follow throughout all 6 episodes. It's her that relays that information about Noriko and Kazumi.
Yep,
Um,
yep, yep.
she's the one with the memories of those of Nonoriri. So she's the one who tells Lulk, I think. That's kind
Yep,
of left for us to assume. Um, but
yep.
they do have that moment together in like that alternate dimension, that other world, and I think their minds are like really intertwined
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
that's going on. So then I think it's Lulk who passes on that information, and then it's no longer a myth. It's no longer an ancient story. It becomes
It's
real to the people of Earth,
yep, yep. And
and
it's
so they're able to
actually
welcome them home, and that is very cool, like you said.
yeah, that is actually very powerful.
Hmm.
Yep.
I think it should be. Um,
Hmm.
I I knew it was coming.
All right.
Not because I predicted it or anything, but I knew that was the link. There are many other links between the two series, but I knew that was the big one, just as a
Yep.
result of like being online, seeing conversation about the two series and knowing what was going to happen.
All right. All right.
So I think
I didn't
that
see
took
that
away
coming.
from it. Took away from it
Yep.
for me. Um,
Mm.
but it is, it's very nice that explicit sort of big reveal exists to link the two
Mhm.
as a final note. You know.
Yep.
That is nice. And then as the credits are scrolling by, you can see in the view of the Earth, you can see the welcome home text kind of in the upper right corner, wrapping
Yep.
around the planet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool.
Yep. 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 All right. Yeah. Any other notes you have on the shows?
Yes, I have so many. I won't get into all of them. We can like end this podcast a little earlier than normal, I think. But there are probably
All
some
right.
if I scroll through that I wanna get to. Oh, one for sure.
Yep.
You said that you think Diebuster is better than Gunbuster. I agree.
Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very close though, and I think they're both very different. Being made, uh, 20 years, 15 years apart from each other.
20 years apart from each other.
Uh,
I,
I
th-
think it's
I,
a
I think it's like the 20 years anniversary that Diebuster
it's the
came
20-year
out.
it's the 20-year anniversary of
Oh,
Gynax, not of
of Guy
Gunbuster.
Next.
So I think
Yep.
I think it's 15 or 16 years between the
Yeah,
two.
it's 16 years different.
Yeah,
Yep.
1988 and 2004, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're both very different. One is, I mean, the biggest difference is one was animated on cells, and it has a totally different feel, a grittier feel, perhaps a more simple feel, which is reflected in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Diebuster's story is a lot more convoluted. It has more characters with different motivations.
Mm-hmm.
Gunbuster is really just about let's get these girls to space and let them punch stuff. Uh, Diebuster has more happening than that.
All right. One thing though that Gunbuster is more focused about the time difference between like the people on space, but against the people on the Earth.
Yeah,
So
that's
like the
true.
passage of time is different.
Right.
Um, One thing I like about the Gunbuster and Diebuster dynamic though is like how Gunbuster is about like the old era, and Diebuster is like 5,000 years later, and everything is different. Like the concept is different, the world is slightly different,
It's way
and
different.
yeah, well, way different. That's yep,
Like topless,
and
humanity has literally evolved,
right,
and now these topless abilities exist in you know pubescent kids and teenagers. Um, like humanity has actually evolved. That's crazy.
yep, and I like how the technique itself, the production itself evolved as well from totally like 80s looking from Gunbuster to the really dynamic looking of Diebuster. Even if I watch it today, I couldn't without the context I wouldn't really realize that Diebuster it come from 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Diebuster,
that's really crazy.
it definitely looks good.
Yep.
For the most part, I prefer Diebuster's visuals because I was talking earlier about like color design and stuff, and
Yep.
just in general, I really like Tsurumaki's visual like
Mm-hmm.
ethos.
Yep.
I think there's something about him, maybe not even necessarily that he's super talented, but I think something about him
Mm-hmm.
as an individual and the way that he chooses to express himself through his art really meshes with me.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do think that the moments in Gunbuster, like when Noriko powers up,
Yep.
and syncs with her machine and punches, the way like this really the crazy like kind of inky sketchy line art and the hyper detail in those scenes compared to everything else in Gunbuster, like how much it stands out. There's nothing like that
Mm-hmm.
in Diebuster for me. Even when they're throwing planets around,
Yep.
you can't top those scenes of Noriko going all out.
Yep.
And that's equally true for the voice performance as well. That's something that I wanted to bring up. No, whoever played Noriko in Gunbuster, like,
Yep.
gave her soul to that project. Every time she like
Right.
screamed out when she was doing one of her attacks, you could feel her throat getting shredded. Like it
Yep.
was really amazing for me as a viewer, and I didn't get that from either of the two women who played Nono or Lulk.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit of a disappointment for me, especially when we got to the later stages and it became all about their big attacks to defeat the Excelio, the space monster.
Well. Yep.
So that was also an area in which Gunbuster had an edge for me.
Yeah, in a way, like Noriko have like the most, like trauma out of like all the characters.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the fact of her father's death hangs over
Yeah.
her for the entire series. She has a crippling fear of space. None of the characters in this series do. They're all like, "Yeah, get me out into space and let's shoot some bugs."
Right.
Um,
And the fact that she free ups when like when she have to fight, and the fact that she feel a bit like responsible for the loss of her first crush in bracket, and yeah, so like all of that adding to like her, like her emotional, uh like like the voice she have. So
Yes.
yeah, I do think like the voice performance for Noriko was pretty top notch.
Yeah, I'm sure that when Gunbuster aired, it was unlike anything that anyone had ever heard before, especially
Mm,
from a female character, who,
yep.
I mean, anime. Maybe at that point in time, you could say that it was mostly geared towards boys. Well, I don't know. There was probably plenty of shonen shoujo stuff happening in the late '80s, um, but I'm sure I can say with reasonable certainty that like no one had ever heard a female performance like Noriko's before when it came out. And just thinking about that and then hearing how how passionate she was, how loud she was, and how dedicated. That's really inspirational, I think, when I think about it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Diebuster didn't have that, but I think we've also gone over its strengths. That its plot was a bit more detailed. It works on two levels because it is functioning as a sequel, and so there's a big payoff at the end of its story,
Yep.
and it doesn't have the coach
It's
in it,
stand love. Yep.
so that's good.
You're right. That's right. He's like the worst part in Gunbuster, so yeah.
Yeah. It is, and that's something I was talking about last week when we talked about Gunbuster. I said that it might have been better if the bond between Noriko and what was her friend's name, Kimiko, who had aged on Earth and who had a daughter.
Yeah, I think it's Kimiko.
Yeah, I think so too. It was something like that. I might have
Right.
liked the bond between the two of them to be stronger and to like phase the coach out,
Yep.
make it more about the connection between two female characters, and that's what Diebuster did.
Yep, that's right.
It was all about Lulk and Nono, and also Nono and Noriko, like her memory of the hero that she aspired to be. The connection between those two characters was also really important, even though we never saw Noriko.
Yep.
So yeah, they're very they're very different, and at the same time there are a lot of similarities as well. But I do like Diebuster better,
Right.
just a tad.
Well, yeah, well, I having the same feeling, but yeah, to be honest, I'm not really wow about both Gunbuster and Diebuster. For the same reason that I feel Diebuster is more on in the same range of Fully Cooley, the show which I have so much admire, but doesn't really connect it to me personally.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. For me, Gunbuster and Diebuster, I was not super invested in either of them. Like,
Right.
I was in
Yep.
kind of note taking and analysis mode for much of both series. And that's really,
Right.
for me personally, I mean, everyone judges what makes an anime great differently. But for me, a great anime is one that will sweep me up in its story and make me forget that I'm even sitting at my chair looking at my monitor. Like, it becomes real to me. That's what a great
Right.
anime is. And neither of these series did that. Not even, like,
Yep.
at any point, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of that is the fact that I knew we were going to have to discuss it. That actually kind of can take away from a little bit from your viewing experience, because you have to be thinking, what is it about
Critically.
this? Sorry.
Right. Critically.
Yeah. Perhaps too critically. I mean, it's good to think critically about TV and
Yep.
film and all that, but when you're going to discuss it and you have to have something reasonably smart to say, your mind is kind of turning in the background the whole time. And that's not a bad thing, but I never really got into either of these series the way that I did for like my favorite anime.
Right. Yep. Well, that actually the very high standard. If you think about like some show can become your favorite of all time and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. How do you watch
Yeah.
it? Like, what makes you think that an anime is great?
If have something that I can think of for time for like many time to come.
Hmm.
So like it have like the ability to stick with me and to speak to me personally. So yeah, that's actually a high bar as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have different like tools of measurement,
Like yeah,
different standards, I
like
suppose.
let's say like one of my favorite anime ever is Monogatari series, and I would say that it speaks to me on a personal level because I feel like at some point it resonated to me and my real life at
Your
that
real
point of
life is
time.
like Monogatari?
Yeah. So like
I'm gonna
I
call the
have
cops,
been
dude.
why I it's not about the boy that boy. It's more about like the act of like others characters that like go through the same thing that I've been through at that point of times. So
Okay.
like I do feel like it speaks to me personally.
I think what I'm getting from this is that what Fooly Cooly is to me, Monogatari
Yep,
series is to you.
that's right, that's right. And for other shows like Utena, it's more like I was in out. I just like there are some visual symbolism that really like make me think like, oh my god, this is act. This is like great act. This is so inspirational.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so like they can come from many angles, and even like Mushishi, like some of the story that stick with me even now, like many years since I've watched it, I still remember them very well.
Okay. Yeah, for me it's different. For me it's all about how I felt in the moment because I tend to
Right.
forget a lot of details about the things that I've read and watched and seen.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what sticks with me is the feeling that I had. I remember the emotion of experiencing it. For like
The investment.
yeah, my favorite anime is Cross Game, and I've forgotten many of the details of Cross Game already, even though I saw it
Yep.
probably a year or a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
but I remember being so absorbed in what was happening, and so
Mhm.
emotional, and so obsessed with the series that I can still
Yeah.
picture, just the way that it made me feel.
Yep.
Um, and Mushishi as well. Like I don't remember most of the stories in Mushishi, but
Mhm.
I do remember feeling as I was watching it, like very struck by it, like that many of the individual stories that it told were very human and very powerful, and that it
Mhm.
went about telling those stories in a way that, despite being kind of supernatural, mythical, and like rustic,
Yep.
was also like paradoxically was so core to I don't know how we live our lives and what makes us human. Like I
That.
just thought that it was really speaking to me as I was watching it. I remember the experience of being spoken to, not the
Yep.
show itself.
It's amazing though that a show about Mushi like taught us how to be a like how to be human and stuff like you said.
Yeah. Just like the way that Ginkgo is the constant, but it brings in a new character, usually one in
Yep.
particular, but it's typically like a set, maybe like a like a village or maybe two or three characters
Yep.
in a small
Yep.
village,
Yep.
and it the in the course of like 20 something minutes, the way that it brings all of them to life and relates
Right.
their situation to your experience as a you know as a person is crazy.
Mhm.
Like it's unbelievable. The
Yep.
manga itself must be terrific, and then the adaptation by Artland as well.
Well, for your information, the manga itself was wrote by a female mangaka, and I think she was like our age at that time. She was like
Late
20
20s.
something and late 20s, early 30s at the time.
Wow, that's
So
really
yeah,
that really just blew my mind a little bit.
right, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it just otherworldly. That's the word that I say. It's
yeah.
just something else.
It is. It's true. Um, but anyway,
Yeah.
what else is there
Anyway,
to say about Gunbuster and Diebuster? Anything?
well, look at the note.
I mean,
I
I have really
Yep.
detailed, specific notes about every episode, and we seem to have
Right.
shifted into a mode where we're kind of overviewing the series, which is fine, and
Right.
we're almost out of
Yep.
time here as well. Um,
I must say though that now that I see like a lot of show from Ganex, except for the big one, the biggest one,
yeah, you
eventually.
really should watch that. Like soon-ish,
Yeah.
because
Well,
it's really good.
I will get to that soonest. I must say though, I'm not really a fan of Ganex.
Huh, okay.
It's so they are pretty good. Like some of the moment and some of the episode are really like outstanding. And I don't mean to, like I think Anno and like these guys are really like the talent, like one of the best talents of anime industry. But at the same time, I still see some reservation regarding their anime. So yeah, they are good. I respect them, but not really my favorite.
Well, you haven't seen their two best works.
I haven't seen Evangelion and
Karekano, His and Her Circumstances.
is it like one of the best work?
It's one of my favorite
All
anime.
right, all right. I'm
Uh,
gonna get to that soon as well.
yeah,
But they has been known for like mecha and like robots.
yeah. Well,
And I think like Fuliculi and Evangelion are the best ones. Even
they're
Ninja.
the two most enduring ones, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, Furikuri and Eva. But I think Karekano is one of the. Oh yeah, you know what? I left Fulikuli out, I guess. Yeah, those are my two favorites.
Yep.
But I really like Karekano as well. Gainax,
Right.
they do a lot of super robot stuff. They do a lot of stories that kind of emphasize human potential against like an alien threat, perhaps.
Yep.
They have a lot of overtly. Anno's work in particular has a lot of overtly psychological. Has like a psychological bent to it.
Right.
But they do tend to function within a certain style or perhaps a certain like mode of storytelling. So it's not one size fits all, but they do have a consistent vision, I think. And the
They do. They do.
perhaps the strongest mark of that is that even when they broke apart and Trigger emerged, Trigger is still like baby Gainax.
Yep.
You can tell watching all of their stuff.
That's
Even something like Little Witch Academia is very Gainax.
that's both a good thing and bad thing about Trigger though. So they maybe Gainax they have like many distinctive feature from Gainax. They have like the original like Gainax, but they still haven't reached the Gainax level, or even like the influence from Gainax.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, a lot of people think Kill la Kill is like, you know,
The
as
the
good
one.
as good as Gurren Lagann, which was
Well,
Gainax's big swan song.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, I don't think Kill la Kill is on the same level at that show.
Have you seen Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
But like a long time ago.
Yeah, Gurren Lagann. I noticed a lot of similarities between Diebuster and Gurren Lagann. Um, the whole thing about going into space and like overcoming your limits and throwing planets at stuff, that's just Gurren Lagann.
Yep.
So I suppose that Diebuster being inspired by Gunbuster, it's really Gunbuster that has like endured in the hearts and minds of animators for so long that even now, like 30 years in the future, you can trace something like Kill la Kill, even something like Little Witch Academia, or the other weird stuff that Trigger has made, like that High School Magic Battles series or something.
High School Magic Battle.
Kisniver, was that them?
Kisnivers, that's the one.
In each of those series, there's probably a little bit of Gunbuster to be found.
Yep.
But yeah, I can't recommend Ava and Karikano highly enough. They're pretty darn good.
Yep.
In particular, I think that the stories that they tell are on a different scale, or maybe that's not the right word, because Diebuster kind of blows the scale up to 1,000,000.
Right.
In any case, I like them. They're neat.
Yep. All right. Well, you like us to close Diebuster now, or you want to have like something else to say about Diebuster?
I have tons of. You know what I might do is make like a Google Doc of all these notes and put them in the description of this video, so people can look at it if they care, which they don't.
Yeah. Right, you can do that though. I actually feel a bit bad that like we don't follow the like episode per episodes.
Well, I mean,
you have like the.
I'm gonna put you on blast here a little bit. You told me before we started recording that you were falling asleep during a couple of these episodes. So I mean, I kind of felt as though going through each one in like excruciating detail might not be the best podcast material.
Well, you actually, if we go like through episode by episode, you actually can remind me what was happening in the episode.
But what if you were asleep and I bring something up and you're like, I don't remember that at all?
Well, I will try to bluff my way, like I will say like, yeah, that's right.
All right, well, I mean, we could have done that, but I think we're good to wrap it up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both made our general opinion on the series and on Gunbuster and Gynex as a whole. We talked about all that, so that's good.
Right. Next week we're gonna do like a special postcard. So we're gonna do the our favorite review of the 10 show that we watch for the next season, the next spring season.
Yep.
And
we already said which shows those will be in the previous podcast episode. So if you want to know which 10 those are, just go to the last episode 49, skip to the end, and you'll find it.
Right.
Oh, but we're changing one, right?
Yeah, we're gonna switch between which one?
We're dropping Ultraman, and we're adding one that might be like to be determined.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
I at the moment though there are like 4 to 5 shows that already been shown. Yep. But next weekend gonna be the big ones, because 2 of our most anticipated series gonna come out next week.
Will they have come out by then?
Yeah, they will come out by then. Yes, on my Saturdays.
Okay, yeah. Sarazanmai, I think, is the last one to air, and it says that it comes out in 4 days and 1 hour. So it looks like we're gonna have like a pretty comfortable time frame there.
Yeah. So make sure to switch in next week.
Yeah, next week
is
the big one.
To see our pick and our opinion on those shows, and the 4 shows that we're gonna cover for the next season.
We will see you all then. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.